the right spot. You are in the right place to be hearing all about today's fun topic, which we're going to be talking about digital analytics, specifically which metric is right for me. So the point of today's conversation, let me go ahead and move this to a better spot. The point of today's conversation is to talk all about all of the dozens of metrics that you can find and figuring out which one is going to be the right metric for you and for your business. So we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds. I do want to give you guys a heads up. I appreciate everybody who's been watching and commenting on these videos. It's been a lot of fun to put together. I am so excited with the way things are going. So thank you. First of all, thank you so much for watching. And also thank you for sharing. So if you want to share and want to contribute to this, please go ahead and click that share button, click that like button, go ahead and hit the heart if you love it that much. And also just add some questions, add some comments. If there's a topic that you want us to cover that we haven't covered yet, go ahead and let us know. And then that way I can do a little bit of research and I can come back to you with the perfect answer to your question. So with that being said, and we've given people just a few seconds to get on, so I think we should go ahead and get started with today's presentation. So again, today's topic is all about which metric is right for me. And before we dive too deeply into that, let me just give you a little bit of background on myself and kind of why I feel like I'm capable of explaining all of this. My name again is Carmen Rojas. I've been in marketing now for more than a decade. I got started in marketing before social media, so I know how it goes both ways. I have been enjoying marketing. I took the leap of faith and left corporate marketing where I was working with Coca-Cola and Subway and Shell and Verizon Wireless and different teams like that to build better marketing. I decided to take the leap and moved over to doing entrepreneurial work because I wanted to share the knowledge that I have with the community that I feel most needs it, and that's small businesses. If you've got billion-dollar ad budgets, there are things that you can do, and you can hire professionals that'll charge, you know, tons of money to tell you this information, but I felt like people like the ones watching this video, like those of you out there, needed to hear this and didn't need to pay thousands of dollars for it. So here I am spilling some beans for you guys on how to make better marketing and to be more efficient in your marketing through the use of analytics. My company is Rojas Consulting. What we do is we work with companies to teach them why their customers click. That is the general premise of what we do. That's our mantra, is to understand why they click. So the purpose of this video is to help you understand where you can look to understand why your customers click. Feeling a little tongue-tied today, but we're going to roll with it. Okay, so I've got my notes down here, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at, got my notes. The first thing I want to make sure that you understand from this video, and the takeaway message that you need to understand, is that metrics matter. There are probably infinitely many metrics that could be created or derived to answer any question that you have about your marketing in a numerical, scientific, data-driven way. So just about any question you have can be answered by a metric. We just have to find the right metric to match your question. And we can even create metrics. That's one of the things that we do for some of our clients. If there's a unique thing that they're watching, we can create a metric that watches that unique thing. So the first thing that is most important with figuring out which metric you should be watching is understanding what your question actually is. And then we figure out what metric matches it. So if you want to know, for example, the traffic to your website, then we're going to talk about that in a minute, but that is something termed page visits. If you want to understand how many people are leaving your website, that's called a bounce or an exit. And we'll explain the difference in just a quick second on those two terms. So again, there are questions that you have as marketing people, and there are answers to those questions. You just need to ask the right question, and we can certainly help you get the right answer. So let's go into a little more specifics. The three metrics that we feel are important for busy entrepreneurs, small business owners who maybe need that detail that's going to tell them there's a problem or things are going right or things are going wrong. So that's the three metrics that we pick. The first one is bounce rate. And when I was talking about that before, bounce rate is actually it is a percentage of how much traffic comes to your site and leaves while only seeing the first page, or doesn't engage with the site in any meaningful way. They don't click on anything, they don't download anything, they come and they leave. Now that metric can actually be a little bit deceiving at times, because if, for example, you've got a video on your page, or if you make the transaction so easy that they don't have to do anything, you know, if it's just a come here and look at this, if your ad that you've put out, for example, for like, I see this often with galleries and photo images, if the Facebook page or the Facebook post that you put was, hey, come check out our videos or come look at our pictures, then people can come and look at your pictures and never do anything and then leave. But that gets counted as a bounce. So you need to be pay attention to what you're telling people to do, and how what you're telling people to do affects the metric that records it, if that makes a lot of sense. And that's why there really isn't, and we'll talk about this in a second, but there really isn't something as a bad metric or bad results in your metric. And we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. But the second metric I want to talk about is time on page. This metric tells you how long are people spending on a specific page. It can be done for, you know, kind of the site as an average, but then it is more interesting when you look at it on the per page basis. So if you're using Google Analytics, you can move around in there and get to the right metric that'll tell you exactly how long people are spending on each page of your site. So for example, what's interesting is when people have kind of an average time at your home page, and then they have another time at the landing page, and then they're slowing down when they get to the cart, and then they're abandoning your cart. That tells you that your cart page or your checkout page is probably confusing the daylights out of people and causing them to slow down and really have to rethink, am I really going to make this purchase? So the interesting thing about you know, time on page and things like that is the combination of them with other metrics that tell you even more detailed information about what's going on your website. So the third thing that we talk about are the number of page visits, and these used to be called impressions, or sometimes it's referred to as traffic. And you know, I really hesitated to put this on as one of the metrics that we were going to watch, but I decided to go ahead and do it for a lot of reasons, but mainly because the best thing that you can learn out of the page visits is, have I possibly been hit by a Google penalty? So for example, if you're doing something that you should not be doing in your SEO, if you've watched the wrong video on YouTube and you're playing around with some of your SEO things, if your traffic drops off all of a sudden, then that would indicate that you've been hit with a penalty. If there's been an algorithm change to Google, you know, you hear about the panda updates and, you know, all of the ones that are named after cute and fuzzy animals. If you see that your traffic, that your number of page visits is decreasing dramatically, and you can attribute it to that date and time when that change, when Google released the change, things like that, then that can tell you that there's a problem. But it's only good if you're watching it. So that's why we decided to go ahead and include it in our package, is because it is important for SEO purposes to understand the volume of traffic that is coming to your website. So the reason why I hesitate and it is not is because when you're a business and getting started, what you care most about is how many sales do I have? And page visits is not an indication of sales. You can have all the page visits in the world and nobody buys anything from you. So if your focus is, you know, and this is why I sometimes get frustrated when people kind of complain, oh, how do I get traffic? How do I get traffic? How do I get traffic? What you want are sales. You don't want just traffic. So you have to be careful with the page visits metric, that you're watching it for specific reasons to understand, you know, to kind of give you a warning if there's a problem in your SEO and things like that. But it is not an indication of how successful you are in your marketing. It is not a good metric to use to value how good the business is. And to be honest with you, even if you are, for example, a blogger who's trying to sell some advertising on there, you need thousands and thousands of page visits per day to get those top dollar advertisers. So that's why we include the metric. Again, the word of caution, it's not the end all be all metric, but it does tell you important things about your SEO. So as I said, There is no good or bad metric. That's the number one key here. What's important with your metrics is the general trend line that your metrics are moving in. Ideally, you want your bounce rate to decrease over time, but there comes a point at which if your bounce rate gets too low, you don't want every person that comes to your website to sign up the form, because every person that comes is not your ideal customer. So you need to find the magic balance point, for example, in your bounce rate. So finding it, and also I've seen, I've actually worked on an SEO project for a company, and it went so well that they became overrun with leads. So again, finding out where that magic tipping point is in your metrics that gives you the time and opportunity to deliver amazing results to the most people that you can in the time frame that you promised, so that you can under promise and over deliver. That's what you want. So again, there is no good or bad metric. So those of you who may be tweeting or asking me questions like, what should my bounce rate be? There's no answer to that, because your bounce rate is what it is. Where you want your bounce rate to go, now that's a different question, and we can certainly dive into that on an individual basis as to where your bounce rate should be headed and where we think the ideal tipping point might be. And again, that point changes over time. As your business grows and expands and you have different offerings and different staff and things like that, then that point will change. So keeping an eye on the general trend of your metrics is more important than a fixated number. So, you'll hear people say, I should have 100 visitors to my site a day. That's what I read somewhere, social media example, some blog or something, some blogger said that. Well, what if you got 100 visitors, but none of them converted? That's not what you want. You need to be more concerned about the metrics that matter. And what we always say is the big daddy metric is conversion. And that's, these are all factors in conversion, and so that's what we monitor. Conversion itself is a little bit more of a detailed metric to put in there, and we do add it to our program for in select cases for an additional fee. But at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind you want to make money. So you want to monitor the metrics that help you make money. So that's the 3 metrics that we added, and just for the record, those were bounce rate, time on page, and page visits. Those are the 3 metrics that are included in our program, and those are the 3 that we think are the most important. It's kind of like if you are going to the doctor, you don't get an MRI when you first get there. They usually weigh you, take your temperature, do a little blood pressure, and then if there's a problem, then they'll go ahead and say, okay, we need a CAT scan, we need an MRI, we need an EKG, we need all these other tests. So these 3 are kind of like that scale and thermometer and blood pressure cuff. The other metrics that you can find in Google Analytics or Kissmetrics or some other places are kind of like those MRI, X-ray, CAT scan type things. They're important, but they actually give us more detail into specific problems. And if you don't have those problems, you don't necessarily need them. And that's why I think our program is really good, because it actually gives you the information that you need and not the stuff that you don't. If you could imagine going to the doctor's office and you walk in because it's just a checkup, and they're saying you need an MRI, you need a CAT scan, you need an EKG, we're going to take your blood pressure and your weight and your whoa, and they gave you all of that information up front, it wouldn't be very useful to you. But if they could say your weight's fine, your blood pressure's a little up, we might want to monitor that, but hey, your height, all of a sudden you've shrunk. We need to look into that. Now we can order an MRI. Now we can look into some specific things. That's the difference, and that's what we provide. And I think that's what makes the Analytics Made Easy program so valuable to you. So let's talk a little bit about Analytics Made Easy so that you guys can understand more about what it is we're actually offering there. Analytics Made Easy gives you simple reports that come to your email every day. Something very easy that'll tell you, hey, things are working right, or no, things are not working right. If things are not going well, then we give you an opportunity to make some changes, and we'll discuss with you specifically what changes we recommend. The second thing on top of the reports is that we do a monthly meeting with you to talk about your results and how we can move things closer to where you want to be along that general trend line that I was talking about before. And then the third thing that you get is access to support. We provide a discounted rate to members of this program so that they can get the help that they need at a much lower rate than we typically offer. So for $19.99 a month, you get all of this good stuff. The reports that tell you how things are going, what you need to be worried about, what you can afford to ignore. You also get the meetings where they tell you, we'll meet with you and talk with you about your results. And then the third thing, of course, is the support that you will receive. Now, I'm almost finished with today. I don't see any questions in the audience, but if you have some, please feel free to go ahead and ask. I'm about to start wrapping this up, so this is the perfect time to be asking questions. Are there any questions in my audience? Let me pause, take a breath, and see if there are some questions. Don't see any questions yet. That's a good sign. That tells me perhaps I wasn't talking too fast and you guys are kind of taking all of this in. I can certainly appreciate that. Okay. Well, I don't see anybody asking any questions, so we're going to go ahead and get started wrapping this up. Again, we do have this new offering called Analytics Made Easy. It is a super duper easy way for you to get just the analytics you need and none of the crap that you don't. So, when I started putting this program together, I, first started out by sharing it with other marketing people, and we got a lot of interesting feedback. And, I think at the end of the day, there's three types of people who are watching this webinar. There's one type of people who, I'm sorry, let's just be real. They're going to hear what I'm saying and say, that was interesting, that was nice, and keep right on doing business exactly the way that they have been. And some of that is just because they think that what they're doing is correct, and some of them don't really, this isn't hitting them at a time when they are really interested in making a change in their business and in their marketing. And you know what? I can live with that. That's okay. That's okay. I'm fine with that. There's another type of people that are watching this who are probably going to say, you know what? She's right. I should be watching those metrics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start watching them for myself in Google Analytics. And if you can do that, fabulous. Go ahead and do that. I have no problems with providing this information to people so that they can do it on their own. If you have the time for that, then you absolutely should make the time for that. I'm here for the third group of people who actually understand that hiring an expert to take care of this for them actually saves them time, saves them money, and will end up with much better results. Those are the type of people that I'm looking for. So if you're that kind of person, then you need to let me know. You need to follow the link that I'm going to put in the comments here in just a few minutes that will tell you exactly how you can access the Analytics Made Easy process, and you can get online and literally within a day or two start getting those emails and those heads up about what's going on your website. That's all I have for today. I hope that this webinar has been fabulous for you guys. It's been a blast for me. If it's been anything less than awesome, please go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know what we could do better. If the lighting's bad, if the sound didn't come through, whatever it is that will help you guys to have a better experience here on the Rojas Consulting page, then that's what I want to do for you. So I hope you're having an awesome day. I know I am, and I will see you on Friday for the final episode of this week. Looking forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.